with your contract, including your cooperating broker's agreement, a dual agency consent addendum if there is one, and we want a copy of the listing, right? So give us a copy of the listing, that would be great. And then we go to the closed section. Now mind you, we can't change these names. So closed sounds kind of weird, like it's not closed yet. Why are you calling it closed, right? Well, these are all the documents that you need to get it closed. Think of it that way. And so right here we start with, here's your earnest money deposit receipt, and here's your additional deposit receipt, and here's your PV system or alarm system documents. Here's the PV or alarm system approval, etc., just like on page 2 of our transaction checklist. Right? Goes right along down the line of the purchase contract and has all of the paragraphs. So E3 refers to the paragraph number. And here's E4, inclusions, a list of inclusions in the approval. Here is extension of closing date, F3. Here's G2, the preliminary title report. Here's preliminary title report approval. Here's H1 or 2, verification of cash funds. Here is H4B, pre-qualification letter. H4C, conditional loan approval. H4D, final loan approval. So it can't be any clearer, right? This is the paragraph, this is the item that needs to go in there. All the way down to, there's some other, and other. What is other? Well, you know, sometimes we just have additional things that we want to file, right? And if those 3 others aren't enough, you can go back to the top and there is an add item. See the add item? And that'll get added to the bottom of your folder, of this folder. Now here's another trick. You can also create a new file folder. So if you've got a whole bunch of correspondence about, I don't know, the survey was so challenging and so difficult because it's a 37-acre piece of land and it's blah, 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 and there was just all this documentation with it, and you want to create a folder called survey documents, right? So that you don't have them just miscellaneously in the folder. You can create a folder. You could create another one that says trust and closing, you know, documents, and put that there so that you can actually name other folders that go with this. Which is kind of cool, right? Now you can actually name sections and organize yourself and the documents that you need to add. All right, and then once you have, now notice this, I have a document in the under contract section, and therefore the submit to the market center button lights up. If I don't have a document in the section, this button won't light up. So you need to submit every section that you have a document in, including any new ones that you create.
Where's that go?
It goes to a different category in CloudMore, and now you need to notify your broker that you've submitted your file and what the name of the file is, so that your broker can find it. And then as brokers, we can go into a section that's called submitted files, so I don't have to look through all opportunities. I can just look through the submitted opportunities, and I can search for you, or I can search for your buyer's name, or I can search for the address. Preferably just give me the file name, right? And if we all learn to do 123 Main Street, comma, Betty Buyer, that's a pretty obvious name of the transaction, right? Then I will look for 123 Main Street, Betty Buyer, and get the folder, and then I go through and approve it. And I open every one of the documents that is there. Actually, the system does it for the brokers. And if we reject something, we write you a note right in the file and say, this is not the right document, this isn't complete, this isn't signed by both parties, whatever the issue might be, and we'll send you an email back and say, please see your command file for comments and corrections. So we're not going to send you an email anymore about what to do to fix your file. We're going to answer you right in the file in command. Make sense?
And where do we go in command to see your,
This folder.
right, just the folder will have it all.
Just, yeah, you go back to the opportunity. It's still going to be in escrow, right? Or you might have moved it to closed, but it's not approved yet, so don't move it to closed yet. Just finish it up and then move it to closed, and I'll show you how to do that. And once you move it to closed and you filled in data in there, command is going to track your income. It's going to track your volume and your GCI and your what you took home.
So if you had corrections, then when we go into the document, there'll be notes there that your corrections.
Each item that has an error on it or a comment with it is red.
Okay.
So you can really easily see,
Cool.
and you click on it and there'll be a comment. And you correct it, and then you can resubmit. And actually, I don't think you have to resubmit. I think it doesn't know. I'm not sure on that one yet. Like, do you actually have to hit the submit button again? I don't know. I don't think so either. I think once it's in the submit file, it's in there and we'll be able to find it again. But you just shoot your broker an email and say, okay, I made all the corrections, please check. Right. Now, the only other thing that I might do is I might make some comments in an email and say, here are the 3 things that are missing. I would do that in an email, right, if some things weren't included.
So eventually, command will create our DAs and our green sheets
Through commissions.
through commissions.
Through commissions, yeah.
And command them.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be right here, this tab right here. That is grayed out, not
Oh.
yet available.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, so in order to get a DA, you have to do the green sheet still.
Yes. Yeah. Does it, I like to explain why, like some people are like, what are they thinking? Why aren't they doing this all at once, right? So I like to remind everybody that Keller Williams has been doing profit share for about 30 years. Profit share means that every person who's entitled to some profit needs to be tracked nationwide. So it's not just the 180,000 realtors who are with the company now, it's also the 400,000 realtors who've left the company over the last 30 years, and therefore this huge, huge database needs to continue to work, right? And is all connected, because if you have a sponsor in Des Moines, Iowa, and you make a sale here, your sponsor in Des Moines will get a piece of our profit next month. That system is a big deal to transfer into a new system and make sure that it works, right? Because the company prides itself in that it's only ever missed one profit share payment, right, in 30 years. So they want to get it right. And so it's not an easy thing to simply transfer green sheets, because it comes with this big, big albatross around its neck.
So this, for us today, this replaced .loop.
This replaces .loop, that's correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to go back out here one more time. Let's see where this takes me. Because I now want to show you how to move Barney to closed. So here's Barney, he's in my inspections. I probably should have moved him to appraisals and financing if that's what I was doing. And now I need to move him to closed. And once you move him to closed, I'm not going to do that because I'm working in my account, right? Once you move him to closed, then it the system will ultimately pick up that information. So when I had a closing list last month, Command showed me what my commission was. It did that thing, right, which is wonderful. It's great to have your front page tell you what your activity is. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
It'll actually let you take it back out of closed.
It will? You've done that?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Okay. Whoops, didn't close.
Well, you know, it could accidentally drop it in closed instead
Yes.
of under contract.
No, that's
so.
true, absolutely, yeah. Okay, so any questions here?
All
As-
starts with contact.
Yeah, put the contact in, put your, you know, get your contacts in there, and then this person that you're working with should be in there, right? So, but play around with it and get familiar with it. So make your own Barney Rubble or Larry Lister and go in there and move them around and see about, you know, just so you feel comfortable. But you can see it's not hard. Just drag it in, yes.
Is there anything that we shouldn't be doing while we're playing around with the system?
No, like I said, I don't like to drag them into close because I don't want to mess up my income, right, with a sample, that's all. So the one thing I haven't figured out how to do yet is how to delete someone, but I believe there is a way. So,
You can archive them.
yeah, and do I really want to archive Barney Rubble? I'd really rather just get rid of Barney Rubble, right?
Good point.
Yeah, so, but I believe there is in contacts. Now, does that also get rid of the opportunity? I would assume so. It'll give me that option, say, are you sure you want to get rid of Barney? He's got an opportunity. And hopefully I can say yes. I need to learn how to do that because I had myself hooked up to PySync and I had Scott Leroy upload my database, and now everybody's in there twice. And so I need to dedupe my database. Not very big right now, so I had it happen with a small number of people, but still. So I will be learning that. Okay.
So in this market center, are our listings supposed to be in Command as listing opportunities right now?
Yeah,
Because I have 27 that aren't.
yeah, yeah,
None of mine are.
yeah. It's just like everything else, Chris. The
No.
corporation is responsible for having your files.
Right.
And if you had them in .loop, they now need to be in Command. Your contract
Okay,
is
they haven't transferred, is what I'm saying.
from .loop to Command.
Correct.
Yeah, you need to hire somebody to do that for you. Yeah. Which isn't
I
very
thought-
difficult because it's just the first folder. You're just gonna upload your listing agreement, the MLS, the dual agency consent addendum if you've had it signed.
Well, on the Scott Leroy's, you know, all their videos say that it should be automatic. If it was in .loop, that it should show up in your command under listings.
That's what I heard, that they're supposed to transfer them over,
Go in.
but not.
They're not.
They're not.
Immediately.
I believe you need to pull them in. So I believe you need to pull your .loops in, and that might be worth a quick email to Scott Leroy and say, how do I pull my .loops in?
Because I was told that they were gonna come over, but it wasn't soon.
I was
Right.
told that you needed to pull them in, so.
They said, get rid of all your duplicates and all that stuff.
Yeah,
At
Barney
some
Rubbles,
point
get
they're
rid of
gonna
your
push
Barney
over.
Rubbles and
Right,
dot loop,
right.
and so you're not pulling those in.
Eventually, they're
Yeah.
gonna pull them
Yeah.
over, whenever
Yeah.
eventually is.
That's a good one. I'll follow up too with
Yeah,
Scott Leroy
yeah.
and see what I
I think it was
learned.
actually, not even .loop, if they were in MLS, because they're syndicated on KWMLS, they should have pulled in as well.
Well, yeah, but that wouldn't pull in your listing contract and your.
No, but it would put them under listings in opportunities.
I'm not sure they're that far along. Yeah. Okay. That takes us back to. Well, forget this. I want to go. Come on. All right, that takes us back to mykw.com, and we're gonna go to the intranet. And we are gonna do a quick overview and just review of doing a timeline. The timeline that we now have in here, I have to tell you, I'm really proud of. I'm really grateful to Kathy Becklin for helping me. She's a wizard at Excel, and it is awesome. And the most awesome thing about this timeline is that when you put in a real date, like let's say your seller's disclosure, you have 7 days per your contract to receive the seller's disclosure. And then you have 7 days for your buyers to review it. So we put those 7 and 7 in there, and that makes 14 days, right? Well, you get it at 3 days. And now what we have to do heretofore is cross out the 14th day and make it, it's actually at 10 days that the buyer's response is due, right? Because we need to adjust that. The system now adjusts it for you. So when you put in that I've received it after 3 days, it will revise the buyer's due date on whatever has to happen based on that receipt. And that's a really, really helpful thing. So I went to our intranet. We go to Market Center, right? We all know how to get here. And we're going to go to Documents. And this one is called the Escrow Timeline Template right here. And here is the KWRM timeline. And I'm just going to delete those other ones pretty soon. And it downloads as an Excel spreadsheet. If you do not have Excel, what's the matter?
Didn't used to.
Oh, yeah, always.
Couldn't change it before.
Yeah, always.
What folder is it on?
The escrow timeline. Escrow timeline template. Get a new one, it's worth it.
Yeah, I use a different one. I've never used this one.
So for those of you who are familiar with Excel, when there's a yellow bar across the top, you have to say enable. So be sure to enable. And this one might give you something else. No, I don't want to open it as read only. I want to do things to it. So why is it opening Excel again? I don't know, but it's opening it again. Okay, well, there you go then. So this is what our timeline looks like. And we're just going to quickly do some, give you some example of how this works. The columns in pukas in yellow are what you need to fill in. And you're going to fill this in according to your contract, right? So now you're going to fill in all this stuff, of course, for yourself, but for today's exercise, we only need to do the yellow items. So our acceptance date was yesterday, and that was November, what was that, 25th, 2019? And then the closing date is December 23rd it was, something like that, right? And there we go. And now I'm just going to go right according to my contract. So I believe we printed out a contract for you. And you can see that we have lots of things filled in here. So we're going to go, my B1 initial deposit is due 3 days, correct? 3 days. Now notice right there, look what happened. It came in dark red. And so I go, why is this coming in dark red? And I go to the legend, and it says, item is due soon. Okay, well that's kind of cool. In other words, everything that comes in bright red like that is telling me this is due very soon. Well, yeah, 3 days is pretty soon, isn't it? So that's a good one. All right. The next one is when is the additional deposit due? And the additional deposit is usually due 2 days from acceptance of J1. So I probably need to go down to J1. And I go, well, how long is my J1? And our J1 is usually 14 days, right? So, and is that correct? That's J1, 14 days. So I'm gonna put 14 days into J1. And then that lets me go back up here and go additional deposit due days after J1 is 2. Do you see what I just did? And I get December 11th. It's calculating it for me. Because the contract says just 2 days. All I needed to do was go down here and fill in the J1 puka, because it's contingent on J1, and it gives me 2. That's probably the most complicated puka of them all. Everything else is straight from the contract. Next puka is a reminder, and it clearly says this is a reminder. Can you ignore this? Sure. You just put NA. If you don't want a reminder, just put NA. But what is it? It's a reminder of the balance of the down payment is due. So when would you like to remind your client that the balance of the down payment is due on a 30-day transaction? I would say 20 days. Oh, it says prior to closing. So I'm going to put 10 days prior to closing. 10 days prior to closing, I'm going to remind my client that they need to get their money out. Right? Like if it's invested in the stock market, time to think about that. Next item is the PV system documents delivered to buyer. And we have not applicable, so we just put NA. And next is the approval of PV, not applicable. Do we have an inclusion list? No, not applicable. And not applicable. There's no approval of the inclusion list. And then we have a closing date. And our closing date was December 23rd, and that seems like 29 days. No, 28 days. 28 days, okay? Closing date extension is 10 days. Everybody going along my contract with me here? So there is my extension. If we extend, that would take us to January 2nd. Probably somebody's not going to be happy with that because of tax, for tax reasons, right? So we got to watch that. Number 10 is another reminder, preliminary title report due from Escrow. This is an estimated date, right? Because Escrow doesn't commit to us when they deliver a title report. So at what point would you call Escrow and say, hey, where's that title report?
Every week.
Huh?
Every week until it's done.
Well, I would call after 5 days. Yeah, 5 days. So we put 5 days, and that's just a reminder. Now it's telling you right there that that date falls on a weekend, so I'm going to go, okay, make it 6 days. That's still a weekend, so I'm going to make it 7 days, and that'll be 7 days from opening of escrow. I better have a title report. Next one is, okay, the preliminary title report review and approval is due 7 days after receipt, right? So if I get it on the 2nd, I am now going to have it due on December 19th. Now watch what happens here. If I use the completion date column, the blue column, this is later on as I'm doing my transaction, right? And I find out I got the completion by, let's make it by the 29th. Look what happened. It changed this due date. Did you see that? And that's sweet. That suddenly makes it worthwhile to go back into this form and make the form fix it. Isn't that sweet? Print out a new one and put it in your folder. I brought one of my folders here to show you guys.
Who did this Excel? Huh? Who did the Excel?
Well, this is, the original Excel is my original from 15 years ago, updated, and then Kathy Becklin took it to this whole new level. So this is how I keep my folder. This is what my transaction file looks like, right? I've got an index, I tab things so I can find them real easily, and I keep my timeline here. And I keep my timeline, as you can see, with handwritten updates, which, by the way, these are awesome in your file. This is how you keep your timeline. Fantastic. I want a copy of it in your file. However, I'm now going to go back to this and update it and let the machine calculate for me when is this due date, right? So it's a really cool tool to have it do that. Okay. What else we got here? So we've got seller to cure defects. They've usually got 10 days. For those of you who are new, follow along on that purchase contract. That's all I'm doing is going down the purchase contract, right? Page by page. Tenancy information to escrow is usually 15 days. No cash contingency. Buyer provide proof of cash funds. What is that? Anybody tell me? 3 days for cash contingency, and this one is NA, and pre-qualification letter due from buyer is 5 days after acceptance, and then, whoops, that's on look at that, right there, it's telling me is on a weekend. Do I care? Not really. Most lenders will work on a weekend, right? But that's suddenly, it popped out at me, it told me this is a weekend date, very handy. Here's a reminder, is the appraisal scheduled? It's just a reminder. Get that appraisal scheduled. And I want the appraisal scheduled within 14 days, so. Now, next one is conditional loan approval letter due to seller. What is that? Oh, that's a weird date. Well, let's say it's 15 days from acceptance. And then reminder buyer to select an insurance company. I'm going to make that also 15 days from acceptance. Why would I put that in there as a reminder?
It's pretty good. You need it for the loan.
Number one, you need it for the loan. I think it's good customer service for us to talk to our clients about that. But if it's a cash deal, do you need insurance for your client? And remind them. It's a good thing to remind them. Let them decide if they want it or not, right? But it's a good thing to remind them that they should consider insurance. Satisfaction of lender's conditions. So when is final loan approval? How many days prior to closing? And we said here 8 days prior to closing. And then seller's disclosure statement is due to the buyer 7 days after acceptance. Seller's disclosure receipt is due from the buyer 3 days later. And then seller's disclosure review and approval by the buyer is a total of 7 days. Property inspection, we already did that. Buyer to complete final walkthrough is usually 5 days prior to closing. Final repairs and release of funds would be 0 days, so that would be closing date. Seller to schedule cleaning and removal of items. Here's a reminder. You're the listing agent. It's a good reminder to have in there. When would you like to be sure that the seller has arranged for cleaning and removal of items from property? I would say at least 10 to 14 days prior, because cleaning companies and dump run guys aren't sitting there waiting for us to call them, right? So that's why it's a reminder in here, so it isn't like suddenly, oh my God, so put it in here and remind yourself 15 days prior to before item J3, or 10 days, or whatever you want. And then it says, reminder seller to schedule pet treatment. Okay, well that's not applicable, we don't have one. Removal of items to be completed is usually 6 days prior. Cleaning to be completed 6 days prior, and you can go in here and check whether or not it's supposed to be by a professional. And because this is Excel, you got to do it this way. Click on the box that on the field that is where this is all written in, right? It's not written here, it's written here. And you can go up here and say yes and put an X there. And that way it'll appear here. So you can make a note of that. Release of funds for pet treatment, if not completed, not applicable. Reminder, schedule a staking and survey. I would say 15 days before item. Staking survey due is usually 20 days after acceptance on a 30-day close, right? You want it as quickly as possible. Termite inspector selected. How many days after acceptance? Usually 7. Reminder, seller's agent schedule the termite inspection. Same thing, termite companies aren't sitting around waiting for us. You gotta schedule it. So schedule it as soon as you know, so 8 days, right? Termite report delivered to buyer 14 days prior to closing. Tenting scheduled, not applicable. Tenting certification, not applicable. And now we've got condo docs. So they're usually due within 10 days. A receipt 3 days. Review is another 10 days. And then leasehold documents to be delivered, not applicable, not applicable. And then rental documents, and we're gonna say not applicable and not applicable. And that is our contract in the timeline, and we now go to this little puga right here, because we wanna sort this entire spreadsheet according to the due date. And we're gonna go there, click on the little arrow, and it says sort oldest to newest. And you now have your timeline in chronological order, including the weekends that you gotta deal with. Gotta get rid of those weekend dates if they're loan dates, or, if, keep in mind, if it's a deliverable on a signature from your buyer, that's okay on a weekend.
The only thing pushed to past the weekend is escrow items, right? Typically.
And bank, yeah, so you're not gonna get final loan approval, you're not gonna probably even get conditional loan approval, and then escrow stuff, yeah. You're probably also not gonna get a TIR on the weekend, you're probably not gonna get a survey on the weekend, so it's a great reminder. At least you can go, is this important or not, right? It's just telling you, you can do with it what you want. You can move it or not. Remember that if you're moving it, we highly recommend you save this as a PDF and send it to the other agent and go, sending you my timeline, would appreciate you agreeing. Notice that I moved these 2 dates, are you in agreement with that? Right? If you have to move the survey due date because you're not going to get a survey on the weekend, so you got to get agreement.
You don't need an addendum, do you?
Something, if you got the agent to agree on the timeline to do that, I would find that sufficient.
This depends on.
But it needs to be in writing, and yes, it depends on who you're dealing with, right? So, on the other hand, trust in God, but tie your camel. Question?
No, I just wondering, can you print that out for us?
Yeah.
What